back before the 90s hit. It was both interesting and scary in equal part.
Yeah, the funny thing is like so they've got all of these like IV stations. So essentially, if you drink too much, you can just go get your blood changed. I mean, it's not that. It's just like IV stations here, but it's funny like how ubiquitous it is in their, like they understand people drink too much, so they're like on the street corner. But the other thing is just the way that medicine's done there. Like you kind of go to like the local clinic, and the local clinic there could be two local clinics competing with each other like within a block. It's insane. It's in the area that I travel to, it is 100% the dangers of unregulated capitalism. Like there are hardware stores that share a wall, and you'll be in trying to like buy it. This happened to me. This is a real story. I was in trying to buy tools for Warhammer. I was buying like little files and stuff for all my work, and I had like the whole tool set like set up, because I went in and I just got all the things that I knew I needed, and I laid them out on a cloth, and I was bartering with the guy actively, and the dude from the hardware store next door walked in and like tried to get me to come to his store for a complete 30% discount. And like the dudes started arguing with each other when I'm standing there, and I'm just like, man, Americans don't know what real capitalism is. like I don't know what's going on here, but these guys are about to kill each other over who gets to sell me files. Like it's insane.
Having spent some time with the Chinese drop shippers on TikTok Shop,
it's the same.
it's the same energy, but instead it's like knockoffs of beloved chunky goth boots from like Demonia and stuff, dude, but the drop shipped version.
All of the weird drop ship Timo stuff.
So much.
I can't remember the show or whatever, but there was the like cut my own throat Charlie. It was like, my prices are so low, it's like I'm cutting my own throat. And like it became a running gag, and I very much remember him. The like weird D&D, quasi D&D like potion salesman. Anyway, so guys, before we jump into our radio entry, this is what it's like when you listen to our Patreon stuff. Some weird conversations going on, and you just get the cold open.
Yeah, we'll just be like mid-conversation, and Ryan will be like, this is content, record.
So,
I'll say something like, it's a good thing we aren't recording that. And Ryan's like,
well, and then we are.
No, we are.
Oh, no, that was on the record.
My other favorite rule of the podcast, and there's a couple of people who have been on in the past as guests. One of the guests that we've had a couple of times in the past that likes to do this is Ickbard. He'll say something, and then right afterward, he'll be like, "You're going to cut that out, right?" And I'm like, "Nope, that's the number one way to get me to leave it in." Whatever really embarrassing thing you just said is now in the pod. And it's usually a weird pronunciation of something that like none of us know anyway. Right? It's all, I mean, if you listen to the podcast, you know that like all of the Space Marine names for things have a tendency to make my brain go, no, I'm not even going to try. As soon as we get to recording, the really sad thing is I'm kind of okay when I read it out loud to myself, like in the middle of the week. Cause I sit in front of the camera with headphones on, and I read through all the notes so that I make sure it sounds like English and not like I know how to write scripts, because that's where my background is in like script writing, and like you guys don't want to hear like interior shot close up on Ryan, Emmy, Drew, and Chalk as a Space Marine hovers in the background. The camera moves that you don't want that shit. Like that is, so I kind of read my notes to make sure they don't look like treatments, which is a form of script writing. Honestly, I'm probably at the point where I don't necessarily need to do it anymore because I've been writing scripts for this style for so long, but I do read everything, and I record those. And I went back and listened after this last the episode that's uploading tonight. We're recording early, by the way, but the episode that uploaded for last week, I went back and I listened to like my pronunciations on a bunch of things. Not Tuscaloosa, that one I did bad both times, but a couple of the other things, I'm just like, why was I really good with like Ithaca when I was in my like recording session with myself? But then when we sat down to record, I'm like, I really And I'm like, there's none of those letters are in that. Like, what the fuck did I just decide to add like an R and like 10 H's in that word?
That's why sometimes I'm like, hey man, I'll read the paragraph. I got this.
Thank God. All right. So back into radio personality. Scorching down your wired synapses like a red hot lasbot. Lasbot. See, like right there. Bolt. Scorching down your wired synapses like a red hot lasbolt, hell bent on radioactive revenge. We are the retrograde renegades of the pirate Vox Wave 665.66 UHMR Chemrat Radio, coming to you live tonight from Mama Kaz's Noodle House.
And with noodles this spicy, who other than Gabo even needs to play with unregulated plasma? Continuing with all things too hot to handle, the Glass Eaters are at it again, spreading their faith with the practical use of arson. Fires erupting all across the Rowship Downs thermal districts in what the marshals are claiming isn't specifically targeted attacks on the cult of Dragon Holdings.
Dagon. Oh my God. Why does it do that?
Let's try this whole thing again. I'll start at fires.
Yeah, we just do start at fires. Sorry. It does Grammarly, and like it did that between me writing it this morning and you reading it. Because it was daggone earlier. I made sure it didn't fucking fix it.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Fires erupting all across the Rowship Downs thermal districts in what the marshals are claiming isn't specifically targeted attacks on Cult of Dagon Holdings.
You're telling me those deep ice worshipping amphibian brains can't take the heat?
Hey, the squats have been shaving in the sink again. Can we get them to start using the wood chipper again?
As always, I am your friendly Hab District Goblin, joined today by our Nova Hot Symphony of Destruction, Emmy.
If I catch whoever has been selling my unlicensed merch, they will be immediately press-ganged into the murder ball draft picks next week. Our very own warden of lost history.
I'm trying to reset my brain because you're like, if I catch whoever's selling,
there was no
and I'm like,
coding,
oh God,
so I thought that was the rest of my line.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry.
I thought you were gonna make a Japanese vending machine joke. I was anyway. Our very own warden of lost history and the deep ice, the Archaeotech savant Chalk.
Hey guys, I found a couple of cases of Flex down in the Underhive. Emmy will be flogging those off on her shop later on.
And joining us for a technical walkthrough of all that Vaultec has to offer, it's our very own engineer of custodial services, Drew.
Hey, I just want to say thank you to Mama Kaz's Noodle House because every time we go there, I don't have to plunge the toilets.
Mama Kaz makes everything move real smooth.
Yeah.
We need a jingle.
Goes in hot, comes out fast.
Mama Kaz makes it move real smooth. Mama Kaz, it's like a fire in your bowels. Or unregulated plasma, I guess.
Right?
Ass does rhyme with Cass, where I'm not going to do it. I'm better than that.
Welcome to a very special episode of Under the Hive of Madness. Welcome to a very special episode of Under the Hive of Madness. As most of you know, we have a Patreon, and since episode number 23, I think we are on episode 167 as of today, we have been doing a live video recording of each podcast episode. And for just about that length of time, we've also been doing some extra Patreon content in that video. Up until about 5 or 6 episodes ago, all of that was rolled into one. So you essentially get somewhere between a 2-hour and 45-minute to 3-hour and 15-minute mega episode, as to where the episodes themselves, we usually shoot for about an hour and a half to about 2 hours. However, as I mentioned, about 5 episodes ago, we all made the decision to change the format, and we now pick a topic and have an in-depth conversation about that topic, and we specifically record that and release it only to patrons. It's released as a side episode. They're about an hour each. topics like today's topic, how are Warhammer 40k and the Fallout series linked to one another? And this is a preview for you guys. We want all of our listeners to see exactly what you are going to get extra when you join our Patreon. So not only would you get the normal episode release that we do, but you would get access to this style of special episode. While this episode itself is going to be a freebie, don't worry, we are still doing a video version of it. So if you like what you're hearing and this is the type of stuff that you want more of, head on over to patreon.com/under the Hive of Madness right now and get access to over 125 backlogged episodes with anywhere between about 15 to 45, sometimes an hour and 15 minutes of extra content, along with those 5 specific videos that are just Patreon only that I suggested or mentioned earlier, and a bunch of extra content. With all of that out of the way, however, Drew, I am going to pass this over to you so you can catch us up with a too long didn't read of the Fallout universe and its storyline to date.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. We'll start in universe because a lot of this is going to have to do with the history of the development of Fallout, which goes all the way back to 1993. That's an important date. But in the broadly speaking, pulling out for those of you who don't know what Fallout is or don't kind of get what the hell the recent TV show, what the big deal is, and why is it so weird? The Fallout universe is a world where the transistor was never invented. That is the key difference. It is an alternate history where essentially the 1950s, the sort of optimism of the 1950s and that sort of Americana in the 1950s kind of carried on till about the year 2077, when there was an atomic war that destroyed what we understand to be most of the surface of the planet. So it is a post-apocalyptic setting. And in these games, you oftentimes play as a character who lives in this post-apocalyptic world. In the first game, which came out in 1997, you play as someone who's grown up in a vault. And vaults are these underground, multi-generational fallout shelters where people can where people of civilization has managed to survive in the Americas, because we don't know what's going on elsewhere, for many years. Essentially, we know that in this alternate history, the United States gets into a war with China. There's a huge oil shortage, and for that reason, they leaned really heavy into sort of the atomic age kind of stuff. Cars are powered by plutonium and all that kind of fun thing.
Everything's powered by plutonium.
Yeah, and then eventually, you get the fusion batteries and stuff like that.
Fascinating.
Just for a little extra, just because I happen to kind of know, because I was involved with an event called Wasteland Weekend for a long time, so I kind of happen to know a little bit of the non-US side of the story. As the United States is getting into a conflict over oil resources with China in the 2050s-ish, the European Union, or it's not called the European Union, but essentially what the European Union is getting into an oil conflict with the Middle East. So we do know up until the Battle of Anchorage, which is what you just brought up, where the Chinese attack the U.S. in 2077?
2077, yeah. October 2077 is when the bombs fall.
Yeah, but there's a whole big. We know that there was some sort of congruent-ish resource war happening in the middle. We just don't know what happened because the bombs fell.
Yeah, right. Makes sense.
Yeah. So in this post, nuclear destruction era in the United States, most of the surface is arid and irradiated. And the games take place about 200 years after the bombs fall, generally speaking. And essentially what's going on is part of the story, the overall lore of the games is that you sort of unveil the sort of secret history of this war and the actual bombs falling. And it turns out it was sort of more planned than anything. For those of you who watch the show, there's a bit of a spoiler. It turns out that like this is not some tragic thing that happens, but instead it has been something that someone has been trying to behind the scenes provoke and enact for a long time, which is why like they built the vaults so early. The vaults themselves, each of them is a little unique. The notion was that the United States government wanted, like their long-term plan was to escape into space, but they didn't have the resources to start developing that technology yet. So they knew it was going to take some time. And they figured the vaults were a great way to research like social and human dynamics in an enclosed space for a prolonged period of time. So they performed various experiments on the different vaults. Some of them were really simple, I mean, this is really sort of diabolical, but there was one that was like, they were told every year they had to sacrifice somebody.
Yeah.
There's in the vault in the first game, your water chip fails, which is why you as the vault dweller are sent out into the wasteland. You have to go find the controller chip that like recycles the water in your vault.
And it was a planned failure. Yeah.
Yeah, it was planned. Yeah. And like it's funny because like at one point, like when you're searching for the water chips later on, you get to a place and they're like, oh yeah, oh, you want a water chip? We'll give you one. We have like 80 extra. For some reason, they sent us a whole pallet when, they were building the vault. And you find out that the water chips,
diabolical.
Yeah, the delivery
unregulated capitalism.
So it's all this kind of, and like, there's one that's all children. There's one that it was all men except one woman. That it didn't go well.
And then there was the opposite, which also didn't go well. Kind of on the same wavelength, but from different sides of the coin, if you will.
Yeah. The game gets very, very dark. Like dark humor is sort of like key to it. And like this sort of like brings us to like the same sort of like the key DNA that both Warhammer 40,000 and Fallout share, just in a base, because they came about around the same time, more or less, and all owe the same sort of like major inspirations. The biggest inspiration for Fallout is obviously like the Mad Max series. That's like Wasteland is the game that they wanted to make a sequel to Wasteland, but couldn't get the rights to Wasteland. Yeah. And Wasteland is directly just like someone trying to make an off-brand CRPG of Mad Max.
Yeah, so there's at this point there are 3 games of it. There's Wasteland, Wasteland 2, and Wasteland 3. Wasteland 2 and Wasteland 3 were both like Kickstarter. Wasteland 2 was a very, very early Kickstarter success story. The original Wasteland had been a wildly popular game when the same development team basically, after Fallout 4 was released, there was essentially a little bit of like community disgruntledness towards the fact that it had moved so far into an action first person shooter like role that it had evolved and changed the core gameplay, so to speak. So there was this move to get back to this like top-down isometric RPG element, which the original Fallout 2 are, and those were based on Wasteland. So the Wasteland developers, the Fallout 1 developers got back together and did Wasteland 2. And it was one of the like breakout smash successes of Kickstarter. And then Wasteland 3 kind of followed in its footsteps. But yeah, those are that's kind of the unspoken. It's not part of the lore. It's like Fallout's kind of a spiritual successor. Now, not to get us off track or too off track here, but as a production team, we have been discussing behind the scenes the idea of doing an episode series or episodes that we will put into their own series called side quests. And side quests would be a lot of the stuff that we bring up and talk about that is like semi-related to Warhammer, or we make comparisons to it in Warhammer, but it's not something that's core enough that we would discuss in the main show. Fallout's one of those. We've also talked about Ravnica from Magic the Gathering. We've talked about Ravenhold. Yeah, Naruto. We talked about we've talked about Raven.
I knew.
He knew.
I knew you would mention Naruto. So I printed this last night.
That's so kawaii.
We've talked about
Ooh.
not Ravenhold. Why is my brain not going? Is it Ravenhold? Ravenhold from Dungeons and Dragons. It's Ravenhold,
no, it's not
right?
Ravenhold. It's
Ravenloft.
Ravenloft. There you go.
No one goes to Ravenhold in Fallout 2. It's Ravenloft. So we've talked about doing Ravenloft. We've talked about doing Shadowrun. We've talked about doing Rifts. There is just this other, 22 AD. That's something that Chalk and I have discussed in the past. There's just all of these kind of like things in the miasma. If you guys are interested, here's another thing that usually only patrons would hear about. But if you're interested, we probably will be asking at some point, everybody's getting this at the same time. Let us know what side quests you might want to see, and then we'll figure out whether or not how to work it into our normal schedule, and then how we would have you guys like help us make the decision.
I heard that those like historical mini games like Bolt Gun have really good lore.
They do, and
isn't it just
okay?
History?
When I hit 40 years old,
it's literally just world history.
Yeah,
listen, when I hit 40,
it has a lot of really great lore.
Yeah, it's really good stuff. I heard the Germans in World War II were, not up to the best, most scrupulous things.
So I can't necessarily speak for the other two gentlemen in the podcast, but when I hit 40, I was given the obligatory choice of model railroad, World War II, or getting really into grilling, and I said nah, and got even further into 40k.
So one of the things I like, sort of bringing this back around, but not really, is that I like about Fallout, and I have to tell you, I'm not deep. I've gotten bit into the Fallout lore. Never played one of the games because I sort of got away from PC gaming because I'm married and my wife won't put up with me sitting in front of a computer gaming all the time, so I don't have the time for it. And now, if they had it on like mobile, that would be dangerous. And I'm not talking about the mobile vault thing where you build a vault. But
just got to get shot like an ROG ally
isn't the post-apocalyptic lore that's like Mad Max, but the type of lore that is built into it, and from the pre-apocalypse, which is what I call retro future.
Yeah, the retro futurism.
So it's the sci-fi that they envisioned in the 30s, 40s, and 50s that we would be living.
Yeah, like now. Futurama and the Jetsons.
Yeah, I absolutely love the retro
it's the retro idea of how the future would look. Now our science fiction doesn't look like, our futures don't look like that future.
Yeah.
And I like the retro future aspect that's in tied in with the post-apocalyptic Mad Max stuff. And it's very
Chalk. Download Fallout Shelter.
Yeah.
On your phone. Enjoy. You'll thank me later.
That's the mobile where you build the shelter. That's the building game. And
is this like Pokemon Go but for Fallout? Like, can I catch a ghoul? No,
it's like tiny Death Star.
Oh.
Or tiny,
I do want to.
Tower is the first one.
Also, sort of on this vein of like other systems, I have a friend who is a miniature designer in England.
Ooh,
and she has where's the wasteland? Oh, there we go. And she does a game that's very Fallout for retro.
Oh, very cool.
Future, retro future wasteland, post-apocalyptic. It shares all the same ideas from everything we've been talking about, including what you haven't talked about yet, because we haven't talked about factions, but it has the aliens, it has mutants, it has the robots, it has irradiated, it has all of that. And
I like the bazooka
designs all the minis, and you can either buy them or 3D print the game.
3D print them. That's cool. What's the company's name?
This is Thunder. It's Thunderchild Miniatures,
and the game is Wasteman.
Yeah, so if you look at the
I like the dog.
That's dope.
The dog with the bolters, or the dog with the machine gun. I guess
Red
it's probably not a
Nebula
bolter.
if you're on Patreon.
Okay.
So she's so she does. This is her style. It's one way, but so you could look it up. But it's very cool. Oh yeah, and she does an entire Pug Warriors line, by the way.
That's super awesome. So there's an interesting thing. So Wasteland Weekend is one of the largest post-apocalyptic festivals in the United States, and it's something that I was involved with for several years.
That's the one out in the desert.
Yeah, that's the one out in the Mojave.
Yeah.
And we all have our own characters and everything else. Now there's a guy named Dimitri. I cannot remember his last name. His first name is Dimitri. He has a channel on YouTube called Nuclear Snail, and he goes over a bunch of different ways to make post-apocalyptic costume pieces. And he is from a former Russian bloc country, I believe, because he gets access to a lot of like former Russian bloc surplus.
Yeah.
He might be in Poland, but he may also be in Germany, or he might be on the like Germany/Poland or Poland/Latvia like border. Anyway, if you have a second and you want to know how much detail goes into some of the costume, and like these are like film ready costumes. Most people who go to Wasteland Weekend are working on a film level. In fact, Wasteland Weekend here in the United States gets contacted a lot by music video companies, by promotional companies. If you happened to watch the Jimmy Kimmel show like a handful of nights ago, when Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth were on it, and there were a bunch of people driving cars back and forth in front of the Jimmy Kimmel live studio, and there were a bunch of people in apocalypse costumes, those were all Wastelanders. The Jimmy Kimmel show contacted Wasteland and was like, hey, can we have some of your people come out and do stuff? So it's like a movie quality. I mean, stunt people go to Wasteland, movie producers go to Wasteland, actors go to, it's this giant thing. However, to get back to Dimitri and Nuclear Snail Studios, he teaches a lot of the core concepts on how to like kind of make these Fallout and Wasteland and Mad Max style costumes. In Europe, Wasteland LARPing is massive. And these are anywhere between Nerf guns to airsoft guns being used in giant live action role playing games. And it's not like, it's not Tosh.0 where the kids throwing beanbags shouting lightning bolt. These are people who go out for 2 to 3 weeks to these closed like military bases, old Soviet era military bases, and they play out complex Fallout style stories. And, again, they're walking around with either airsoft weapons or Nerf weapons that have just been upgraded to a level where they're essentially airsoft guns. I mean, they're firing Nerf darts at ranges and speeds that you don't want to get hit without wearing eye protection. And it's very cool. It's a huge world. And it's very interesting. It's just, I think the reason that I brought all this up is it's really interesting to see the crossover between, in America, we very much celebrate the film as a music and art festival. And in Europe, they very much celebrate the idea of playing in the wasteland. So there's this whole like community that's based on this. And a lot of this stuff really, really, really very easily works back into how sprawls are in in cyberpunk games. The urban sprawl, these cities that have just merged into each other that are so huge, and they have these lawless districts, these poor districts. Think of Ready Player One if you need an example from a movie, or think of Elysium if you need another example from a movie. Just these incredibly poor districts where a bunch of people are kind of crammed together and it's lawless, which very, very easily works into the way that the Underhive and even the lower levels of a Hive city work, or even just a normal mega city in Warhammer. And of course, all of that goes back to the word that I just used, megacity. All of that goes back to 2000 AD and Judge Dredd. And that, like, all of this stuff, all of this miasma that was swirling around in the late 70s, early 80s.
If you really want to see that, you should check out one of the grossly underrated movies by our buddy John Wick, which is, can anybody think
Johnny Mnemonic?
For?
Oh,
Johnny
Mnemonic.
With oh my god, I recently rewatched that movie. I really liked it as a kid. I was way into cyberpunk as a kid.
Who the preacher is, and Do you know who some of the people that like co-starred or were like extras in that? Not extras, but supporting in that?
Yeah, I mean, Henry Rollins is in that
Yeah,
movie.
Henry Rollins is in that.
Puts
Of course,
in
Dolph
a
Lundgren.
pretty awful performance as Spider, the cyber doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that as much as I like that movie, you just hit the nail on the head. The pretty awful performance.
Oh yeah,
I love
nobody,
that. But, oh my god,
nobody in this movie, including
the
German
actual book that it's based on.
Yep.
Or the world that it's based on. Which, by the way, what's his name that wrote all of those?
William Gibson.
William Gibson. Never used a computer.
Neuromancer. Yeah.
And wrote that all on a manual typewriter.
Yep. Well, I mean, those books were written. I mean, the concept of cyberpunk predates the existence of the internet as a ubiquitous service that everybody has access to.
Yep.
But yeah, so the
which
idea,
is very important because that relates directly back to what we're talking about here, right? This is the swirling mess that exists both at the entry point of Warhammer 40,000 and Fallout, right? This is sort of like they're all catching the same cultural waves. They are both equally inspired by cyberpunk. They are both equally dystopic. They're both post-apocalypses, right? Like they share a lot of those things in common, right down to the tabletop RPG roots, right? Because before it was a war game, Warhammer 40,000 was an RPG, right? It was, it was like Laserburn, which became Rogue Trader, and there's also Spacefarers in there somewhere too, right? Like these are like evolutions, and they realize, hey, wait a minute, if we make this a war game, we can sell more of these miniatures. Because that's how it started with, we have these miniatures, we should write rules for the miniatures because that'll sell more miniatures. And then they're like, wait a minute, instead of making it a role-playing game, if we make it like a war game, people will buy more miniatures, right? That was the whole motive behind it. So they all.
So you're saying capitalism is the real Warhammer 40,000?
Yes.
Oh my god!
I know I've been sending videos to Ryan. I thought I was sending it to both of you guys. I don't know if it was on TikTok or Instagram, but it was a guy doing the history of some of the games before 40k and showing some of the miniatures. He wasn't doing Laserburn. He was doing a different game.
Confrontation. So Laserburn, a lot of Laserburn was incorporated between Rogue Trader and First Edition. Well, okay, so technically Warhammer 40,000 semicolon Rogue Trader is First Edition.
Yeah.
However, a lot of times when we talk about it, we separate Rogue Trader as a different game from the first edition of 40k as a tabletop war game.
Yeah, which is second edition.
Which is second edition.
Yeah, which is second edition.
We're talking about a lot today, so strap in, kids.
Laserburn got worked in a lot to the rules there. And then when second edition kind of miasmaed into Epic and then back into third edition, Laserburn became Confrontation. Confrontation became Necromunda. Confrontation is not a different game. Confrontation and Necromunda are the same game. Confrontation was just the name that was being used when it was being released in White Dwarf.
So like that's much harder to copyright.
Yeah. Well, and all of this stuff is like
there was a French miniature game called Confrontation, and they sued one another, and then they stopped using it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And all of this kind of boils down to the fact that like all of these roots, as Drew just said, all of these roots like feed into and circle into each other. And with all of that kind of laid out, Drew, you've got a presentation for us, right?
I do. We're almost there.
We're almost there. Okay.
Tee one more thing up. So I just quickly to set up sort of like the history of Fallout. Fallout itself actually started as a TTRPG. Tim Kaine, who was the creator of Fallout, who basically the first 6 months of Fallout was just Tim Kaine, alone in a room, and he based all of this. He coded the entire engine and stuff by himself and started coding it by himself for the first 6 months when he was working for Virgin Interactive, and he based all of this on role-playing experience that he had. And he came up with the idea to do a GURPS role-playing game. So he contacted Generic Universal Role-Playing System.
Yep.
Oh, you guys keep saying that, and I'm like,
it was a GURPS. It was a general rule system, and then they had supplements for D&D, Traveler, name your genre. You basically could learn one set of rules and then
apply it anywhere.
Hack your lore, game style, whatever on top of it.
So it could be classic fantasy with like swords and sandals. It could be, cyberpunk future. It could be whatever, right?
And that's Pinnacle Entertainment. And Pinnacle Entertainment, please sponsor us. The newest version of GURPS is basically Savage Worlds, and I guess their like minor competitor is D6, because both Savage Worlds and D6, there's Savage Worlds Horror, there's Savage Worlds Sci-Fi. Same with D6. There's D6 Horror, there's D6.
There was also there a whole game system D20 that was the same thing. That was a generic game system that then you attack your different settings on top of.
Yeah, and the D20 system is if you're a geek and you're in the geek world at all, you're probably familiar with all of the controversy that Watsky has been going through for the last year. Wizards of the Coast.
Is it Polish now?
No, it's just Watsky? what those of us who worked for Wizards of the Coast stopped calling it Wizards and started calling it Watsky.
Okay.
You guys have never heard that?
No,
I've heard Watsky.
But not Watsky.
Oh yeah, that's me pronouncing things like an idiot. Watsky, same thing. Did I say ski as in like going downhill?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's Polish now. Yeah,
it is. Now it is.
Okay,
that's right. I love that. Let's do it.
We just did it today.
Yeah.
No, that was me being lazy as I speak. So essentially, if you've been following any of that stuff that's been happening with Wizards, there is this huge issue with what the open gaming license is becoming, and what Chalk brought up was the original open gaming license. And actually, Chalk, Savage Worlds grew out of the original open gaming license because the Deadlands book, the first Deadlands book from Pinnacle Entertainment, was actually just a D20 supplement book.
I remember that actually. I remember that Deadlands book.
Yeah, it brought in enough different stuff that they were able to say, "Oh no, this is a standalone game," and then Deadlands basically became Savage Worlds. So anyway, wow, and this is what you guys get on Patreon. We go off on the weirdest geeky tangents, like how I can't pronounce Watsy.
There is just way too much gaming history, from wargaming to RPGs
to everything. Everything's interconnected, man.
Yeah.
In this podcast, we just have too much. And then there's the whole
too much
thing
knowledge.
That I don't understand, which is where you're flipping little pieces of cardboard at each other. I don't get that.
Yeah.
Oh,
we'll talk about that another day. It's funny because when reading about the history of this game and reading about like what Tim Kaine had to say, it was like he was really, really inspired by. It was 1993, which is when Warhammer 2nd Edition came out. It's also when Magic the Gathering.
Magic the Gathering was in alpha. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is these what they were playing in between RPG sessions, which is what Magic was designed for.
And it is an interesting segue back into the Warhammer 40,000 universe, and specifically what we're covering right now with our main topic by looking at the Horus Heresy. The Horus Heresy started as a trading card game.
No way.
That was designed to compete with Magic the Gathering.
Magic Gathering. Yeah. We actually sold it in the store. So this was when I was a red shirt. This is how long ago this was. So yeah, we actually sold it in the stores. You could buy it was made by a company called Saber.
Yes. Yeah, they also made Legend of the Five Rings, right?
Yeah.
You can buy I've seen Legend of the Five Rings. That's a fun one. I have played a couple of the Warhammer card games. I will say the Age of Sigmar Champions card game, there's a reason why that's not commercially available anymore.
There's a reason why the Horus Heresy game was, we're talking what?
They
maybe
tried to take
5
these
years
super complex, right? The movement phase, the melee phase, the shooting phase. a tabletop miniatures game that's like an army format and condense it into a card game. And you needed a special playmat to play it and everything. And I think we got 45 minutes into a single game. We each took a turn, and then we pulled out our commander decks. And
never mind.
Never mind. We were like, no, maybe not this.
Games Workshop has not had the best luck with trading card games. It's just a weird. I mean, again, their roots are, like you said in a minute, like we've been talking about role playing games and miniatures. But the Horus Heresy card game did get us a massive amount of artwork. It followed Epic, because we're talking like, I want to say it was 96 to like 2001 was when it was printed.
Later.
Was it a little later?
Yeah, it was like it was late 90s into like 2006.
It was right. Yeah, it was right when third edition. It kind of came about as third edition launched. And it very much, it was a bunch of artwork. That's why there's an art book called The Horus Heresy that was published in like 2004 or 2005 that was like became the Bible, so to speak, the tabletop Bible of how to write the Horus Heresy novels, was because John Blanche and all of the other artists, which I should know all of them, Jess Goodwin being another one, all of those artists have been working on the card game art. And, just like Magic the Gathering, there would be this beautiful piece of like Abaddon leveling his storm bolter at Sanguinius or something, and then underneath it would say something like your weak children or your weak sons and their petty blah 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 blah, and then the quote would end and it would go Abaddon, and then like that was it. Like that they were doing these little like one-liner story descript, just like Magic does, where Magic is like, it'll be like the goblin text. The flavor text. It'll be like the goblin bomber, and then the flavor text is like, I like things that explode, and then like that's apparently enough character development. like it was
for goblin. Absolutely.
Hey, I picked what I know.
I think my favorite goblin flavor text is the one where it's like, once he figured out which end of the stick was sharp, he was promoted to guard duty. They have great character development for the goblins.
Okay,
hey, look, it's Andy Chambers.
One last side quest, then back, because we were talking about Brian Ansell.
Oh, we were, yeah.
Found this back, the mullet-headed Brian Ansell in a cut-off T-shirt with his, as it says, with his mighty chaos army.
Oh my God! Look how small that is.
It's tiny. It's a tiny army. There's like.
Is that epic?
20 miniatures on the table, and this looks like that's Warhammer Fantasy Battles. So that's like nothing.
Okay.
It's pre Warhammer Fantasy Battles existing, but basically, yeah. But it's 28 mil. Yeah.
They're just tiny. Anyway,
that's
I just
so
love that
cute.
picture. So back to
I want hair like that.
GURPS. Who made GURPS?
Oh,
Steve Jackson Games.
Mm-hmm.
Steve
like
Jackson
the Munchkin guy?
Like the Munchkin guy. Steve Jackson Games. Their games were distributed in the UK by Games Workshop.
Now, Steve Jackson, one of the founders of Games Workshop, and Steve Jackson of Steve Jackson Games are two different people.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
there's too many Steve Jacksons.
Name options.
Did a lot of stuff that Steve Jackson of Steve Jackson Games did a lot of classic games. Did they do Ogre too? Or that
I don't know, but they had a whole like choose your own adventure role playing series of books as well. So all that to say, they're all interconnected and interwoven in some way. And so when they were working on the TTRPG version of Fallout, essentially, they had some War Gear books floating around. They have not admitted to this. I know this because I was playing, I was playing GURPS and I was playing Rifts and other similar things. And you would go to your local game store and you'd buy all the books you could off the shelf, especially because for like GURPS, you didn't have a ready-made setting. So you had to like you had to find source books that had sort of like generic information. And one of them that was really popular at the time was something called like, it was like near future weaponry or something. I had that. That's what if you know what a Pancor jackhammer is, you probably learned about it from that book. By the way, only 3 of them were ever made. Like, it's interesting that it's in there talking about like, this is the gun of the future. It didn't happen. I also talk about like the Heckler and Koch G17, which is like this caseless ammo gun, which was the inspiration for the pulse rifle and Alien. It's a whole thing. The other thing that they had, though, you know what they had? Here, I gotta share my screen here.
You gotta bring up our PowerPoint here.
Which one is it?
And this is a really big thing, especially with the late 80s, early 90s, and probably honestly. Now, I'm going to stick with that. That the early 80s through mid 90s supplement role-playing games books. Shadowrun did it, where Shadowrun literally has like there's a Chrome, I think it's called like Chrome and Steel. And it's the book where all of your like cyber implants and bionics are in it. And then there's another one that's like the Street Samurai's gun catalog, and it's literally just weapons for the Street Samurai. You're bringing up Warhammer 40,000 second edition War Gear book, which is another one. And if you have played only Fallout 3 and Fallout 4,
that's important. There's an important distinction there. So when we're talking about this, I'm talking more about Fallout 1 and 2 than I am 3 and 4. 3 and 4 are derivative of 1 and 2.
Yes,
right?
they're a distillation down.
Yeah. And then the company that made them went bankrupt. That was Virgin Interactive. So the teams dispersed. They all got hired by different companies, and the rights for Fallout stuck with Virgin as it was going through, like chapter 11, right? They have to go through all their things. They're like selling off all of their assets and stuff like that. And so that took years. It took almost a decade. And the people who ended up with the license after the dissolution of that company was a little company called Bethesda Softworks, based in Bethesda, Maryland. And they had previously made the Elder Scrolls games, which were completely different styles of games. They were first-person games, but they are a beloved company. They were well respected for making very good, very sort of like interactive, open world sandbox role-playing games with a rich narrative attached to it. So people saw this as a win. As a Fallout fan at the time, I thought it was great. Then I got my hands on it and I was like, oh shit, it's a buggy Bethesda game. But that's a different story. There is a bit of there's a pretty significant tonal shift, because the people who are writing the games for the first two, and designing and doing the fiction and stuff, they are not the same people who are doing 3, 4, and 76. Fallout New Vegas, however, which is a spin-off, which is developed with Bethesda software many years later, is actually that original team coming back and making a Fallout game using the technology that Bethesda had developed. So eventually the snake eats its own tail. It's a weird thing. But it all starts with Tim Kaine alone in his bedroom, coding away. And one of the things he has sitting on his desk is this book. He has not admitted to this. I am inferring all of this. You'll see why. And the weird thing about second edition, unlike other editions of the game, and they kind of go back and forth with this, but for the most part, if you have the rule book, you have the rule book. But second edition came with like 8 books.
None of them. There is no core. Well, there kind of is. There's the rule part of it. Yeah. There's like a basic army list, which is a separate book, and then there is the war gear, which is also a separate book, because at the time they didn't know that they were going to be doing codexes. This is pre-codex, right?
So they needed to sell more books.
Yeah. So they started making more books. They started making supplements, right? And the supplements were termed codexes. And then it became commonplace to do a codex for every single race. But again, this is the origin of, for a long time, Warhammer 40,000 editions had a base army list for every available faction in the core rulebook when you got it. And then they got fleshed out in the codex. This is where they started essentially doing that, right? The you had these basic army lists, and these war gear lists were meant to be sort of like agnostic. They're not Imperium specific, right?
Yeah.
Like the flesh borer is on the same page as the heavy stubber.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
I mean, they did
The
push
funny
it out
thing
in,
is that
like White Dwarf and all that, and they started doing some army lists there, and then they started putting out the war gear and all, and then the first actual codexes were, God, was it what was the first one that they put out?
I'm pretty sure it's Ultramarines.
Yeah, it's got to be Ultramarines. Although Ultramarines,
no,
were
it's
not
not
the studio
Ultramarines.
army
I think
at
it's
the
just
time.
called Imperium.
It was
It's very old though. You know,
yeah.
like,
I mean, they came out with Angels of Death very quickly after that because the Blood Angels at that time was the studio army, I believe. It wasn't Ultramarines.
That's correct. It's the Blood Angels are on the cover of the books.
Yeah,
Codex
there you go.
I mean, they're on the cover of the War Gear book that you got right there.
Well,
Codex Imperialis is what was in that book as well.
Yeah, Codex Imperialis is the
army list part of
army.
it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have the Eldar book over there too that just says Eldar and it's blue.
That's cute.
So check this out. This is going to blow your mind. We're going to compare some I cherry picked, admittedly, some war gear from Warhammer 40k second edition rulebook and from Fallouts 1 and 2.
I'm raising my hand for a second. Can I have an injection. So one of the things that we've talked about with our creative writing episodes is you always want to borrow what you know. If you want to write a new love story and you really like heist movies, start with a heist movie, figure out how the heist movie can turn into a rom-com. The tropes exist for a reason. In role-playing game design, we do the exact same thing. We are right now as a group retrofitting a bunch of existing guns and gun characteristics from other games into the Under Hive role-playing game supplement that we're working on for our patrons. So we're doing what Drew's about to talk about, we're doing in reverse. I just want to bring that up. So like Drew's coming from the point of like working on rule sets and understanding how this stuff bolts together. And this is what we do as writers. We're constantly borrowing what exists and what we know. As you know, you don't want to plagiarize, you want to borrow. You don't want to plagiarize, you want to be inspired by, essentially. But yeah, sorry, man. I just wanted to throw that in there.
And that's definitely what I'm saying here, is that you can see how much these things have inspired the things in Fallout. It's not one-to-one. But for some of them, it almost is, because this is a chainsword on the right from Warhammer 2nd Edition Codex, and on the left is the Fallout 1 Ripper.
Which still exists. I didn't find one. I finished upgrading my Fallout 4 Ripper like 2 days ago.
Fascinating.
They look aesthetically, they look a lot different now in the post Bethesda era. Bethesda has sort of like redesigned them a little bit, but yeah, you can see how much like this is very similar, right?
Yeah.
There are also power fists in Fallout. This is the original power fist on the left, of course, the power fist on the right. We all know and love from 40k. This is the sprites were very small. The resolution was very low back in the day. Plasma pistol. Like,
1-to-1.
Yeah. Las pistol, laser pistol.
Huh.
They even do the thing where, like, in Warhammer 40,000, you have plasma pistol, plasma gun, heavy plasma.
Yeah.
Las pistol, las gun, plasma gun. Yeah. Right?
Huh.
Like, they do the same sort of things. There's, as a matter of fact, plasma weapons in Fallout, in the early Fallout games, even had a similar effect to the Gets Hot special rule from Warhammer 2nd Edition and 3rd.
What's the Gets Hot special rule, Drew?
They can blow up.
What is it? This is mine. This is my las. This is my pistol. This is my gun. This is my oopsie. I rolled a 1.
Yeah.
And it's a guard.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
guardsman. Like who's got. He has no flesh anymore. He's just holding a plasma gun.
Yeah,
That's fun.
essentially, every time you shot a plasma gun, there was a chance that it would overheat, and then if it overheated, then you couldn't use it. And then there was also a chance if you failed critically that it would explode in your face and kill you.
Yeah, it could take out portions of your squad too.
Yeah, you basically had
fun.
to roll to see if it overheated, and then roll to see if it just deactivated or if it blew up and killed everyone.
Blew up, yeah.
And that ubiquity, that rule, that plasma gun rule has become ubiquitous, and the fact that it still exists in role-playing games to this day, whether or not it's
isn't that still also with like hot shot laser rifles?
The 10th edition rules treat plasma and hotshot a little differently. They basically have a better rate to fail. Like they hit and they impact a lot better, but they have a shorter success rate. And they got rid of the like deletes half your unit or deletes your guy, and just made the dice harder to achieve. Whether it's exploding 6s or the range is different, or there's a couple of different ways to deal with it now.
Yeah. The needler. This is a weapon that you don't really see in modern 40k, but needle pistols were a big thing. Was it what are the halflings called in 40k?
Ratlings.
Ratlings used needle pistols for a long time. Okay. I don't know why, because they were annoying. Ratlings. Yeah.
Needle pistols were still used by the Dark Eldar up until. Actually, I think they're still kind of used, to tell you the truth. I believe the Harlequins still use needle pistols.
Use them. Yeah, that would make sense.
The Inquisitors, a lot of times, if you get into any of the side fiction, there's needle rifles and needle pistols and flechette pistols everywhere.
And that's a ubiquitous sci-fi gun.
Yeah, sometimes the flechette,
wire guns,
especially the flechette thing.
Whatever.
You see that in Cyberpunk a lot too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I love that in Fallout, the flamethrower is called the Flamer. And in Warhammer 40,000, the flamethrower is called
the Flamer.
The Flamer. Again, remember, they were developing this game in 1993, the year Second Ed came out. That's when they started doing this.
Right.
Here's a big one. On the left, we have combat armor from Fallout. On the right, we have Cadians and Khazarkin.
Yep.
Like the combat armor is the combat armor for like the Cadians they clearly borrow the same DNA, and like you can see how they on the far left is the original sprite for combat armor from Fallout 1 and 2, and then how that inspired Bethesda when they years later did Fallouts 3 and 4. But you can still see that you can't escape that DNA of basically having Imperial Guard in there. Like it's just all peppered in there.
Liked earth tones.
And that actually goes back to the movie industry, because it was a competitor movie to Star Wars came out. Everybody was like, oh my God, we got to get on this Star Wars thing. And there were a bunch of movies that came out that were like Star Wars clones. And one of them is, if I am recalling the correct title in the correct sequence, I believe Dark Star. And in Dark Star, they used a specific type of armor on their space warriors, their space marines. That armor got reused in the film by James Cameron called Aliens, which then got reused in the movie Starship Troopers. Same armor, then got reused as part of the Alliance's armor in Firefly. And it's that armor set that very much inspired the look of what what Drew just showed, of both the the combat armor in the Fallout series, and then essentially the Cadian Guardsman armor. It's all the same thing. It all goes back to this just like suit of armor that's been floating around Hollywood for 40 or 50 years.
Check out Props to History on TikTok and I think YouTube. He's a prop guy, and he does a couple of deep dives into props that have been used in like every movie.
Yeah. It's really kind of funny. But anyway, that's just a weird aside but yeah.
This whole like the concept of Space Marine is an interesting thing that again all has sort of like common roots that spread out in different ways.
It's all Heinlein's fault. Chalk and I talked about that.
I mean, but there's also, you have to, the whole Space Knight, Space Marine, space whatever, that was a lot of that going around in the golden age of science fiction, because the hero was always, an overpowered, buffed out Superman with a laser pistol and armor. And this is why Games Workshop actually lost one of the only times I've actually taken somebody all the way through court for a IP violation. They lost because the idea was these are generic terms and ideas. And then after that, we started getting Astartes, we started getting Aldari, we started
Primaris.
It all moved. Orcs now have a K on it because those are trademarkable. But where the ubiquitous, like Space Marine, it's like, well, an armored guy fighting in space is a common trope. You can't trademark that, but you could trademark this specific type of armored guy in space that you call something different than Space Marine. I forget who they sued and who they proved that was. It was
part of the chapter house.
Chapter house.
Okay.
Yeah. And speaking of armored Space Marines.
Is this the Brotherhood of Steel?
So this is power armor specifically in Fallout, and it is called power armor, and this is obviously heavily inspired by the power armor. Like, they have huge pauldrons, right? The other thing they wanted to do is add some, like, they pulled some influences from some other things. So I know City of Lost Children is why he's got that weird, funny, like, sensor on his head. And, like, they have, like, the sort of, like, Jules Vernean kind of, like, tubes and stuff. But, like, the big pauldrons and the fact that it's power armor, like, it just... And you can even see, like, the little Voxcaster grill thing here, is very similar to the one on the Space Marine, right? The old school Space Marine, like, they're obviously borrowing from one common place.
Right.
And it's interesting because... Fallout and Warhammer 40,000 have this same sort of like common touch point or sort of like inspirational theme. And that was that, back in the good old days, Brian Ansel didn't think that they could sell science fiction miniatures. They didn't think there was a market for it. So when they were coming up with laser burn and similar things, they decided instead to make conversion kits for the fantasy miniatures. So instead of, you could get, like your elf, and then you could get like a chainsword instead of like a cutlass or something, right?
Right.
And so that's why we had for a long time the tradition of just taking the fantasy races and putting them in 40k
and moving them directly over,
because literally it was just like, well, we'll take this like Renaissance guy in space and give him a gun, right? Like, and that's how we'll make and that way we won't have to make as many molds and stuff.
And all of a sudden you have rogue traders.
And all of a sudden you have rogue traders. Is exactly that's and the same sort of thing. Like, originally when they were conceiving Fallout, it started as a fantasy game. The Brotherhood of Steel obviously has very common touch points to both Warhammer 40,000 thematically, but also like they were drawing from like classic like knights of old. They're like kind of like
Teutonic knights.
Yeah, they are the questing. They're like Templars, right? And the whole concept of the original Brotherhood of Steel was they were meant to be the good stewards of technology, right? They knew that technology is what ended the world the first time, so they. Again, in Fallouts 1 and 2, they know that they were sort of like trying to protect man from the more dangerous technology, but not in sort of like a secretive way. Versus like they eventually in Fallouts 3 and 4 become a lot more xenophobic and more similar, ironically, to the Empire we know of in Warhammer 40,000.
Unfortunately, this is what I have to say about the Bethesda era of the Fallout game. First off, I like Fallout 3, New Vegas, and Fallout 4 quite a bit. I think Fallout 4, from a game mechanics perspective, is really well polished and functions well. I think there are definitely problems with it. It's buggy as shit 10 years after release. You know, how many updates have we gotten to Skyrim, and we haven't seen an HD texture upgrade to Fallout 4, which is kind of a weird thing.
It just came out.
Oh,
the next gen patch just came out last week. They surprised like everybody. And
it's not that good. It did not do as much as it needed to. You know, Skyrim,
and it sandbagged all the modders too, which is great.
Yeah, it was a pretty anyway. And there are definitely some other issues, you know, in comparison to a modern game, in comparison to a modern first person, third person shooter. There isn't a vaulting system. The jumping is kind of weird. The AI pathing is a mess. Overall, though, Fallout 4 is a relatively polished first-person Fallout game.
Yeah.
However, one of the major things that Fallout 3 and then Fallout 4 did, New Vegas is not necessarily in this brand because New Vegas again went back to Obsidian and a different core of developers. But
they were told specifically they weren't allowed to use the Brotherhood in New Vegas.
Yeah, they're not in New Vegas. But Bethesda kind of made, and this is something that we're seeing in modern 40k, which is the main reason that I kind of thought about it and I'm bringing it up. Bethesda made the decision to make almost every choice a black or white defining moment. So it's either a good choice or a bad choice. There's no Paragon system anymore. There's no levels of gray. And unfortunately, you have to, in Fallout 4, there's like 4 or 5 factions, spoiler for the game, there's like 4 or 5 factions that are all kind of vying for control of the wasteland. And you as the player have to decide who the good guy is. And they very much lean towards the traditional Commonwealth values. I would almost say traditional American values, but they're not. They're the Commonwealth's values. In the 1970s, in order to avoid issues on American soil, and with the fear of communism rising, the Fallout universe, as the first major branch off from our actual history, well, I guess the first one would be the microchip, but the second major branch off is that the entire United States is reformed into 13 commonwealths in order to kind of like stop interstate bickering. So as far as like Commonwealth values go, the game really paints 1 or 2 of the factions as the absolute good guys. And because it does that, it makes every other factions the absolute bad guys. And as Chalk has brought up more than once, and I think we've all kind of brought up more than once at this point, it's way more interesting when you're dealing with shades of gray than it is when you're dealing with absolute good or absolute evil. And I think that's kind of the disservice that the Bethesda games do. Now, at the same time, I understand why. It makes the game have a much wider appeal. It makes it much easier to play. You can definitely see, you know, you can have your evil build, you can have your good build, and it's something that the Morrow engine, which is the roots for the creation engine. By the way, the game Morrowind and the game Morrowind's engine is the thing that Fallout 3 was built on, and most of what Fallout New Vegas was built on. Fallout 4 is the creation engine, but it's this super old engine.
It starts with the Gamebryo engine, which goes back to Morrowind.
Yeah. It's just a really, and it gets into all of these different things, but it's just that engine was built more for these like absolute good or absolute bad choices. And that, I don't know, it like takes something away from your experience.
It's more of a classical fantasy storytelling, whereas Fallout, the big thing was it definitely leaned into shades of gray, right? So like while we had Teutonic Knights that were inspired by or like the Brotherhood inspired by Teutonic Knights, like you also have the ghouls, which are very clearly like fantasy undead.
Yes.
Right. And so like and the super mutants we're going to talk about in a minute.
Because the super mutants are called something very specifically in the Fallout universe all the time, which if you know anything about the Warhammer 40k universe, you'll be like, oh boy, that's a bit on the nose.
Yeah.
Are there, I think I've heard, I'm not as much into the video game world as you guys are, but hasn't there been a fair amount of controversy on sort of Bethesda as a whole and some of its choices when framing its games, or am I wrong with that?
So there's kind of a two-pronged thing there. The first pronged thing there is that Microsoft very recently, like within the last 2 or 3 weeks, made some decisions to cut a bunch of game studios that were umbrellaed under Bethesda, which is not being received very well because some of those studios probably rightly deserved to have their hands slapped because of the games that they released, but several of those studios also did really, really well. However, the other side is by a limitation, again, of the creation engine and the voice act. So Fallout 4 introduced a lot of voice acting, which is honestly really cool and it can be really immersive. However, it does replace your inner monologue when you're playing the silent protagonist, which to some people like me doesn't matter. I like the fact that my character has her own voice and can speak her own words because I am not playing me. I am playing a character in this setting who I made a female. So for me to put myself too deep into those, I'm like, I can't get that immersed. I'm literally like playing a movie, and that's just because of my build. However, because of those choices, it kind of removed a lot of the flexibility of the Paragon system. The Paragon system is what's in New Vegas, and New Vegas is very largely lauded as being one of the best Fallout games.
It is basically Van Buren, which was the code name for Fallout 3 that they were developing at Interplay and Virgin Interactive before it got shut down.
And the Paragon system and the way that you can build your characters in it is very much like your decisions on who to help and like how nice you are to people in the wasteland actually determine if you can take a certain charisma perk. So like you actually, if you want to be a charisma character, you have to kind of be an okay guy, so to speak, charismatically. You can't just decide at level 35, oh, I win charisma now. If you've played your character like an absolute shitheel, the game won't let you make that decision. And I think that's kind of what Bethesda's been bashed over the head a little bit with Chalk. And I think
people also go after them for being quote unquote. People go after them for being too woke too, so they catch that bullshit.
Problem that I had heard about. I was thinking about,
and also their games are buggy as hell.
Too woke, so I think it was a different game studio.
Fallout new pronouns, yeah.
Blizzard. I don't necessarily want to. This is a huge bag of worms, but being that I went to college in Southern California, and a lot of the people I went to college with either got into the art, the music, or the game development world, I know a lot of female presenting people who worked for Blizzard. Blizzard was
as a
very
human resources practitioner. Blizzard is often used as an example of exactly how not to run a company.
But, and getting to your comment you just said, Ryan, I always create a female character because it has a smaller hitbox.
I made the decision a very, very long time ago. I made the kind of what's the Kyle? I made the Kyle-ish decision. I'm really sorry, Chads and Kyles. You are very nice people. It's just
that's offensive, man.
Using internet vernacular to make the sillies. But I made the very bro decision. That's the word I want to use. I made the very what's the dude from Jersey Shore with the like slicked up hair?
Oh, are you thinking of Paulie?
The situation.
The situation, of course, Mike. The situation.
I made the situation choice to make a female character in some game because all I really want to do is watch a girl's ass run away from me. And what ended up happening was I played that particular game for like 6 years, and the character I made, Reldes, became like a functioning part of my gaming psyche, and now I just make her in every game. And people are like, well, why? And I'm like, because that's who I play. Like, it's just my character. Like, it became enough of my character that like the I just want to watch an ass run away, like, is no longer part of it, because most of these games are first person. All of these games are first person, and as a first person shooter player, I play them in first person. I don't give a shit what the character looks like, but she's going to be a girl and she's going to be named Relda.
Listeners that will get the my statement on that. They'll understand where I was going with that, and we're just going to leave that there.
No, I make male characters in MMOs.
Well, that was
because for the first time in my whole life,
oh my God,
if I'm playing a male character in an MMO, people leave me alone.
Yeah.
I don't get lascivious DMs. No one asks me to send them explicit photos. No one's like, oh, baby, what are you doing in the Dwarven Mines? I walk around in my plate armor and people leave me the fuck alone. It's so nice.
Emmy, everybody knows that you play video games to get boys' attention.
So speaking
there's no reason
having played a female,
did I grind up to a max level wizard in old school RuneScape? I will tell you, it is not for male attention. It was so I could finally start crafting cosmic runes.
So having played a female main character since the late 90s in World of Warcraft, EVE Online, and several other online communities.
Did you say EVE Online?
Yeah, I played EVE Online for a long time.
Oh my God, Ryan, you're the worst.
I know. I would get
that's a game for economists and tax collectors.
Yep.
You get the creepiest
messages from people because I'm a female character, so obviously I'm a girl.
Yeah.
Now, to Chalk's point, the reason that people chose Oddball in GoldenEye, the old N64 game, is because very legitimately his hitbox was smaller because he was shorter than everybody else. So if you shot at his head or near his head, it would go over. And at one point, I think it's one of the Lara Croft games, the hitbox for the character is actually the height of like a 6'1" model in the game. So if you shoot over Laura's head, you'll actually headshot her, even though you're missing the model because the hitbox is the same. Anyway, there's some really weird hitbox stuff, but yeah. Sorry. That was weird tangent. You were going to talk about super mutants.
Yeah,
all that to say, in Fallout, boy, girl doesn't matter. Once you're in the power armor, you all look the same.
That's right. That's right.
And your hitbox is all the same size.
Maybe we could have female space marines because we put the power armor on.
Their power armor and their hitboxes are all the same size.
It's almost like you're making an excellent point. Like once you get a super soldier in a giant set of powered armor, they all look the same. They don't have to put boobs on the giant space plate.
There's already female Stormcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just armor. You just put on the suit, you know. Like we don't have like, you know, you have a cashier at McDonald's. It doesn't matter if they're man or a woman. You know, they're all wearing the same beanie and hat and shirt. You know,
we learned that lesson from Invader Sim, where he pulls up and goes, "Listen, burger slave."
I miss Invader Zim.
Okay, so again, all those things, like the same thing that Warhammer 40,000 was doing, they were doing in Fallout, which was they were transposing classic fantasy sort of tropes into their post-apocalyptic setting. Brotherhood of Steel, Teutonic Knights. Sorry, I keep forgetting which window I'm on. Right, and here you can see, obviously, we even get the Beaky Marines. By the time we get to Fallout 2, we get the advanced power armor.
Yep.
And yeah, they get even more Space Marine.
What is it? The XO1 or the VX01?
The XO1, or it's called the advanced power armor in Fallout 2, or the XO1B. Just like there's the T45 and the T51, and that's mostly that's mostly like a more of a Bethesda thing because they keep redesigning it. But yeah, the advanced power armor, obviously, very, very Beak Marine in inspiration, which I think is very, very funny.
And another problem that both series have, now that you just brought this up, because Bethesda keeps redesigning, is Bethesda introduces new power armor all the time. But from a lore perspective,
There shouldn't
all of
be.
the power armor should have stopped production at a certain point because no one's made anything new since 2077. However, there's usually a new suit or two each game.
The one exception is the advanced power armor. That's the reason why the advanced power armor is what it is and why it looks so different. Is because the only people that still have access to develop the technology or would want to, like the Brotherhood in theory could improve on the technology, but they don't want to because they see that as sort of like going against their basic sort of tenets and faith.
Right.
The Enclave, which are the remnants of the U.S. government, which is like
actual painted and very, very deep black bad guys in Fallout 1 and Fallout 2.
Yes. They are they're the ones who have been improved. That's where the advanced power armor comes from. In theory, you shouldn't have anything more advanced than that because those are the only people that still have the the original like scientists and engineers and stuff who designed the original power armor. You know, they were passing their knowledge on to the Enclave, who was in turn continuing to develop it. But no one else in theory would have that information. Super mutants, though, are a big part of the Fallout universe, and also a big part of like the narrative. Like they sort of established like very early on that the radioactivity is what's caused all of this weirdness. But it's more than that, and sort of like their narrative conceit is, and so they take that 1950s idea of you can be like Bruce Banner and hit by radiation, and then you get superpowers, right? Like versus what it actually does to you, which is just makes your hair fall out and makes you bleed from your lungs and die very slowly and painfully.
That's fun.
Yeah, or like getting struck by lightning. It turns out also does not give you superpowers. It just hurts real bad.
What? You don't get to run fast for the rest of your life?
Special chemicals and hit by lightning at the same time.
Well, then you get super speed.
Yeah. Or what if you live in a radioactive wasteland and somebody introduces the forced evolutionary virus into your bloodstream?
That's the big one, right? So the narrative conceit we learn is that the reason why everything is so weird in the wasteland is because the U.S. government was developing a biological weapon called eventually becomes termed the FEV, the forced evolutionary virus. And the idea is it speeds up the genetic mutations in something so that they evolve and overcome whatever sort of like extreme environmental conditions they're under very, very quickly. And initially it was developed, like as I mentioned, it was first developed as a weapon. But then they realized it actually had some like positive effects, and then eventually they just decided to release it into the general populace, knowing that the bombs were going to fall, hoping that it would help the life on the surface of the Earth further sort of like survive and propagate, so that after the bombs fell, that there would be something left. As it turns out, it had pretty detrimental effects. It made giant scorpions. At least we get rad scorpions. It makes mirelurks, makes giant crab people, and a bunch of other stuff. It's the reason why everything's sort of like weird and wacky in the wasteland. And one of the things is if it gets into a person, it turns them into a super mutant. But if we're being honest, they are basically just orcs, right? Because the thing that the FEV does to humans is it makes them really strong, really tough, really resilient, but also really dumb. So they end up being very, very orky. Except for Marcus. Marcus is one of the few super mutants that's actually like intelligent.
If they paint their armor red, does it go faster?
No. But they are called greenskins. In fact, a lot of time they're referred to as greenskins.
Yeah.
And this to kind of link to other things in the science fiction miasma, the HMHVV, the human metahuman vampiric virus from Shadowrun, is another like forced evolutionary virus style thing. And then
I would be surprised if that they lifted it from that, because they do mention Shadowrun specifically being one of the heavy influences for this.
And there's also the virus that makes people goblinoid, goblinate, orc8. I can't remember in Shadowrun, which is basically like everyone in Shadowrun is born. Everyone to a certain point in Shadowrun was born human. However, if you are special, when you hit like 16 or 17, you might get second puberty, and second puberty can turn you into an orc or a troll, which are both huge. It's called goblinization. And again, in Shadowrun comes from something. It's not called the forced evolutionary virus. I can't remember what the other virus is called, but there is another virus in Shadowrun that essentially does
the whole
similar
results of the
stuff.
the ghost dance and all that in Shadowrun. I didn't think there was a virus that mutated you.
There
I thought
is.
it was just like ambient magic. Some people changed into orcs and trolls.
Some people do it because of the ambient level of magic, but other people goblinate because of the virus. Well, it's not necessarily that it's not that you'll necessarily become an orc or a troll, but you will become something else in the goblinoid race with the virus. So you could become a goblin, or you could become a halfling, or you could become any of the other fantasy that are not orcs and trolls. But usually orcs and trolls are magic. You're right.
Yeah,
Shock.
and their intermeshing of those two things is, I think in a sort of similar way, they come back and say, like, look, the reason for all of this is magic. That the virus, the reason why that virus can exist is because it was affected by magic.
Yeah.
On sort of like a molecular level.
It's been a long time since I looked at Shadowrun, and I when I was in it, that was like the first editions, the first couple editions, and I know it changed since then.
Third, fourth, codified and changed a little bit. But yeah, and again, like there's a bunch of these other side quests we can take that get into all this other stuff that I think we'd all love to do.
I'm almost ready to go into a whole, like, I could peel off for like a good 45 minutes and talk about specifically the analogies between, the connections between Blade Runner, the synths, and then the whole thing of like classic Americana and American history and the Underground Railroad and all of the stuff about like that appears in Fallout 4 and how like thematically it fails horribly and ends up just being in my opinion, being like a little bit of just a flimsy racist caricature of the original thing.
Otakus, nerds, and all out there. And by the way, if you guys want to send me hate mail, you could do that at Under the Hive of Madness. What's our email?
Under the Hive of Madness
at gmail.com. Attention, shock.
Discord or any of my stuff. But this is coming from an outsider that doesn't have a lot of it. Is there a big change or a change at all between sort of the lore of Fallout 1 and 2 and 3 and 4? Because I know there was a big change in the gameplay and all, but was there a change in the storyline lore?
Tonally, things become very different. The Brotherhood of Steel become overtly xenophobic and fascist. Like they go from an order that seems sort of like altruistic that dips into like shades of gray into like very much like Elder Maxon, who is like the head of the Brotherhood in Fallout 4, is very much a bad guy. He is like, he's very much got like the hate the mutant kind of vibe going on.
You're supposed to pick the Minutemen or the synths in Fallout 4. Everyone else is everyone else, even everyone else, including the Railroad, the Children of Adam, they're all kind of painted as like awful in certain ways. And it's not at the beginning. The Railroad seems like a really good organization until you get like a couple of missions deep into it. But the Minutemen are trying to just like rebuild the Commonwealth and make it like healthy for everybody.
They're just trying to make a community. Yeah.
They're very much the like token good guys. They're the most annoying faction, so you don't want to do a Minuteman playthrough. No. But they're supposedly like the good guys. Now, let me
flesh out this question.
Yeah.
So the Fallout 1 and 2 and Fallout 3 and 4, are they done by different studios? Yes, the franchise was sold. Yeah. They're done by different studios. This is what I'm getting at. What was the tonal / corporate / whatever change? Because I do know from friends who are in the video game industry that when stuff like that happens, oftentimes the original creators and all are sidelined, if not completely pushed out, and then you get a tonal change storyline change, sometimes like very big changes at the point when it switches companies, because you have a different corporate structure. You have different because oftentimes the creators, they're like, I have a story to tell. This is mine. This is my baby. I have a story to tell. This is what I've dreamed of. This is what I'm going. Then they get bought, and it's like, we need to make money. And you get that shit.
Yeah.
Let's go to what's popular. Let's go to what
necessarily
sells. Let's do that. And
no, that's not what's happening here, right? Nobody was like, oh yeah, you know what we need? A retro Americana future game with a post-apocalyptic setting with sandbox world. You know, like these were not hot words in the gaming industry at the time. You know, this is at a time where Modern Warfare 2 was the hottest selling game and was selling millions. Like, those are the sorts of things. Like this was by far gunplay. This was a risk. This was a risk, right? Like, and to be fair, in first person, you know, the gunplay in Fallout 3 and 4 is like poop, which is why they came up with the VATS, right? Like, it was like, they were like, well, we need to like sort of evoke the turn-based, because the first two games, for example, are isometric turn-based role-playing games, right? 1 and 2, and tactics, if you want to get into that.
Well, I was going to say, so the big elephant in the room that kind of gets an answer to what Chalk is driving at is that there are 2 games that are not considered canon that make a bunch of decisions with the Brotherhood of Steel that led to the Brotherhood of Steel as being bad guys. So Bethesda kind of cherry picked out of Fallout Tactics and Fallout Brotherhood of Steel, and they took the story beats that they wanted and they left the rest alone. And Brotherhood of Steel and Fallout Tactics shift the main protagonists of the Brotherhood of Steel from the West Coast to the Midwest. And the Midwest branch of the Brotherhood are the ones that are essentially win, and they are the ones who are fascistic, and they are the ones who have Liberty Prime, and they are the ones that are present in Fallout 3 and Fallout 4. However, since you are supposed to...
Can we show Chalk Liberty Prime? I just think he'd get a kick out of...
Yeah, hold on. I'll pull...
Chalk likes giant robots, and...
well, and that is the thing. Like, Fallout, the Brotherhood in Fallout gets really overtly dorky.
Yeah. But they basically to I guess
jingoistic.
They cut out, you know, imagine Warhammer 40k having all the development that it's had up to this point, and then the developer, the studio being like, forget everything you but it would be a little bit more like, forget everything you know about the Chaos Space Marines, like forget everything you know about the Horus Heresy. None of that ever happened. Horus is not a bad guy. And then to be like, but the Black Legion are bad guys. Okay, well, why are the Black Legion bad guys if the guy that founded the Black Legion, Abaddon, is Horus's second in command? Well, that's not important. That doesn't matter. We're going to completely ignore the entire Horus Heresy and pretend like it never. And that's kind of what Bethesda did by invalidating 2 entire video games worth of lore, because those video games explain how basically how the West Coast Brotherhood falls and is replaced by the Midwest Brotherhood. Because the Brotherhood it's a brotherhood. It's a bunch of different knightly orders that are not necessarily connected to each other. But by Fallout 4, they're all bad. Yeah, it's
so they start off as being 1 platoon from the military that manages to survive. As a matter of fact, the leader of that, division. I don't know how the U.S. military organization, but it's a significant portion of the U.S. military under the auspices of one 3-star general. And he, when they give the order to drop the bombs, he rebels. He's like, this is absurd. There's no reason to do this. He'd been watching sort of like the war crimes that have been happening in Anchorage and during the annexation of Canada, which happens in the history.
That should happen in real life too.
Yeah, I know. But
the slow, subtle annexation of Canada.
this general sort of splinters off, and then essentially they create these cloisters, these little bunkers where they have they don't have direct orders, they have a philosophy, because the general recognizes that this people having this advanced technology in their hands was the reason why this happened, and so that's why that's what they're trying to prevent. But then you get the Midwest branch, and they get a big blimp, and they think they're all high and mighty. And basically, they're more, as Ryan has said, is they're more, they have sort of more fascist roots, right? They don't necessarily just want to keep the technology from people in a subtle way. They just want to control people. They just want to come in and say this is right and this is wrong. We are the good guys, and that's the brotherhood that you see, in the Fallout TV show as well. Yeah. So the Pridwin, which is the name of the airship, is actually in Fallout 4 and makes its way back across.
Yeah. It's very obvious that as far as, I mean, that's one of the big things as far as the official end of Fallout 4, because Ron Howard, the guy with the Todd Howard, thank you.
Todd Howard. Ron Howard is the guy from
I was like, that's incorrect.
Happy Days.
Well, he has done a little bit since Happy Days. He's directed a few small budget movies.
Yeah, just one or two. But
Ransom was a piece of garbage. Don't see it.
But so the guy who has the reins of Fallout advised on the show. So it's very obvious from the show that the Brotherhood surviving the events of Fallout 4 is considered canon at this point.
Yeah.
And you can make a decision in the game to not have the Brotherhood survive. But yeah, because that blimp, that basically the guys in the show are supposed to be the same from the Boston Commonwealth.
Yeah. So this is Liberty Prime, and it is a giant robot that throws mini nukes like footballs and says really sort of jingoistic-y things. And it takes sort of the dark humor and the satire that was involved in Fallout 1 and 2, and kind of takes it to a level that's just absurd, right? In a lot of fans' opinions. If you're a fan of 1 and 2, Liberty Prime usually gets under your skin a little bit. It's just a little too goofy. It's a little too absurd that there's giant robot football quarterback that it says for America and then throws nukes at people.
Communism is the very definition of failure.
Yeah, he says a bunch of that stuff. And to be fair, again, in the game, he is not. They very clearly say he was built as a propaganda tool, not as an effective weapon of war. They recognize that this is not a good way to go about actually winning on the battlefield, but it will sway the hearts and minds of the people. He's meant to be more like Captain America than he is to be I don't know, an
actual weapon,
like a Titan.
He's
right,
huge, though. Yeah, he's the size of a knight, and Warhammer scale. He's the size of a knight.
He is about. He's I think he's 15 feet tall. Here you can see.
I feel like he's a little taller than that, but yeah, I mean, there are sequences of him wandering around throwing nukes, pulling nukes off his back and throwing them at targets, which is amusing.
Yeah, like a football.
That's but it's definitely a joke. Yeah, it's and depending on how you play, you don't even have to necessarily deal with him. But
yes, yeah, and that is one thing that they managed to hold sort of true to the
better dead than red.
Yeah.
Some of these are just great. I mean, and it's all over the top. It's very much Liberty Prime is the joke that led in a lot, as much as Helldivers 2 is very much Starship Troopers, the game. The kind of Liberty Prime tongue-in-cheeky stuff about spreading democracy is embrace democracy or you'll be eradicated is one of Liberty Prime's things. And those are things that are words that are said in Helldivers 2, the video game. But yes. Helldivers 2, the video game, was specifically developed and designed to poke as much fun at this stuff as possible.
Yeah. And so, this is the one place that at least where Bethesda and interplay, like the one sort of Black Isle, the team that developed this, the one common thing that they sort of agree on philosophically is that there is no useless skill. You can solve any problem either through violence or through diplomacy or through charisma or whatever, right? That was like the common root that they both had, even when they were completely uninvolved with one another before Bethesda had purchased the Fallout, right? They were both doing that at the same time. Like famously in Fallout 1, you can get to the last boss, the master, and you can literally talk him into killing himself and all of his and his super mutant army. You just be like, hey, look, man, this isn't the way. Like, this is going to be a mess. And also all of your super mutants can't reproduce. So like, there's no future in this. And he goes, oh man, I did get the data wrong. Dang. Hits a button and like nuclear self-destructs himself and everybody. Like, and that's one of the ways, and the same sort of thing in Bethesda games. You can like, if you've done the right things and your charisma is high enough, in many situations, you can walk up to someone and talk your way out of being arrested by guards and stuff like that.
Or you can rob somebody blind. Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't always go like, again, Bethesda is oftentimes criticized for like not necessarily having the best implementation of those things. And that's perhaps, but they at least come from the same part. Yeah. And I think ultimately the thing that Bethesda is given the hardest time for is their games are always very unstable. It's because they try to make them as open world as possible. They try to make them as sandboxy as possible. They want to have those emergent gameplay experiences where, putting an apple over here and that guy like trips on it. And then, that's how you like kill your target. Like that's the kind of thing that, they want to see happen.
Do not enjoy that.
Like it's meant to be like, hey, like I said, like it's a sandbox. Here is a set of things with parameters, and you can make subtle changes to them and have an experience that's completely unique every single time.
Yeah.
Right. That is like what they refer to as an emergent experience in video games. And Bethesda really leans into that. And oftentimes that means that sometimes, this NPC who normally follows their path through town, that like, if you wait until they go into a dark alleyway, then you can intimidate them, right? Like sometimes it means that they get stuck on a door that was open that they hadn't planned for and is just walking face first into that door over and over and over again. And then their dialogue never triggers. And then that quest is broken and you can't finish it.
Yeah.
This is what Bethesda is notorious for. So
yeah, there's some really weird things, but so one of the things that I would suggest flat out is watch the television show. The television show is very good.
It's fun.
And you don't have to have.
I got
it's pretty
through.
good. I learned a lot.
Like, so I just have to know: is the dog okay?
The dog's fine.
Yeah,
dog's great.
Chuck, here's what you need to know: dog meat is in dog meat is in every single game.
Fine.
Yeah, he gets hurt at one point, but then they fix him up. He's fine. But dog meat is in every single game, and he never dies.
Yeah, and he's always named dog meat, regardless of whether or not.
I just have to let you know that I had to like fast forward through like the first half hour of the original John Wick movie.
Oh yeah. And the same goes if you've ever seen, was it Equilibrium, which is a fucking terrible movie.
Equilibrium is a fucking awesome movie.
Oh, it's so bad.
It is
like.
Oh no!
It asks you to make the bold moral choice of siding on the guy who hates, like the people who hate art and kill puppies, or the guy who does the magic gun dance who loves puppies and thinks art is cool. Dance. That's the part. That's the trick. That's the trick.
Equilibrium is good bad. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, yes. Like I admit, like the choreography and the action scenes are incredibly well done. And he pulls in an amazing performance, absolutely. But it also paints like this like really cheesy, goofy world.
It's Brave New. It's the world from Brave New. It is literally the world from Brave New World. That's what I was trying to say.
It's the world from
an Aldous Huxley novel.
It's just they don't, with some Fahrenheit 451 mixed in. It's the fact that they use the drug to control everybody that makes me think more
Soma.
Brave New World. But
Yeah.
the problem is that you're trying to get into what really should have been like a mini series concept in a
What did they call? What did they call them?
in
They
a
weren't creatures, were
95-minute
they
action
were,
film.
Divergence.
No. What were the guys that were out? The clerics.
That's from the show Divergent.
They were clerics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Tetragrammaton.
Tetragrammaton, which is
And
a biblical reference.
one that's very similar to that,
They're
that is
ten
also an
priests.
awesome movie, is Ultraviolet.
Ultraviolet was an interesting. It's another good bad film.
Oh no! Oh no!
Ultraviolet, her weapons reload from inside of her veins. Anyway,
because she's a special
it's
magic
from an
vampire.
alternate dimension. She's loading them from the warp.
Yep.
Also, there's the Blood Chinois, which was a poor choice because they're vampires who are Chinese, so they call them the Blood Chinois.
Yeah. There's just anyway. So the show's really good. Chalk, if you haven't watched all of it, watch all of it. My partner, she really enjoyed it, and she has she's never played any of the games.
Yeah, same.
What I did
the dog is fine. The dog's actually a really good character.
Yeah,
arguably the dog's the hero of the film.
What I did want to mention is that you specifically brought up powered armored warriors saving everything with just their heavy iron on their hip, which very much brings up Western iconography, which Fallout very much leans into. If Warhammer leads into like Teutonic Knights and Samurai really heavily, which they kind of do in a really weird way, Fallout leans into the idea of the Western. And the ghoul, who's played by Walton Goggins, is very much the big man with the huge iron on his hip.
I was going to say, if you're leading into that, and Fallout really gives me the vibe also of another role-playing game series that we've talked about, but that is Rifts, and specifically Rifts Old West. And I know they don't have 100%. Magic in it, so there's not the magic, but Rifts is another post-apocalyptic. And the
landmines and Rifts,
and the sort of fallen down.
But they don't. Fallout does
tech that's in one of the source books, which I think is the Old West, but not the Mystic West. The Mystic West is different because there's magic.
So this is another thing again, where like old school Fallout fans like me, right? Fallout 1 and 2 fans. Another thing that disappointed me was that they moved it to the East Coast. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was an interesting idea to see a different part of the United States, but it turns out that for me, a huge part of the DNA of Fallout is that it is set on the West Coast, right? Yeah. Like California, San Francisco. They lean into themes of those things that are part of that part of the world and that history, right? Like the Old West and that kind of stuff, and the risks of like, because the Old West famously, like, corporations had a little bit too much control, right? Like the Pinkertons there was more members of the Pinkertons than the U.S. standing army, right? Like it was definitely a time where unfettered capitalism was a little out of control, and the original Fallout has a lot to say about that as well. And so like moving it to Maryland and DC, and then eventually Boston, it is obviously a part of the world that Virginia. And Virginia eventually, but it's a part of the world that Bethesda Game Studios has a lot of connection to, obviously, and they wanted to bring a lot of that classic, like, American history stuff into it. So like there's guys who dress up like there's a ghoul who dresses like what's his name?
Pictures.
The guy who
like a Revolutionary War.
His name is Hanover, and he dresses like. Is it Hancock? It's Hancock.
Hancock. It's Hancock, yeah.
And he dresses like
Paul Revere. And you actually do Paul Revere's ride, right? There's part of that as you follow the Freedom Trail, and that leads you to and that's Paul Revere's ride in Boston. Like, one of the things I like about the game is they get the general sort of like layout of Boston pretty right. Like it feels like it's set in Boston as someone who's been to and really loves Boston. And has like the metro and stuff like that, and then DC, like, it gives them a chance to put those monuments in there, those landmarks, and they really lean into that. But to me, Fallout, like a big part of the flavor was the West and setting on the West Coast and the Wild West, those themes. So yeah,
our cultural identity, and this is kind of what I'll end with. Our cultural identity of the Wasteland comes from the Mad Max films. The Mad Max films
100%
are 100% the keystone, and the Mad Max films and the Mad Max environment, down to the video games that have been released, down to everything. Everything is always, the entire world is now a desert.
Well, for
and
Ryan
a lot
knows
of
this, but our listeners don't, you guys don't. But one of my favorite places to go was sort of like Ryan's old stomping grounds, which is down in Joshua Tree and that area. And
love Joshua Tree.
So we drive down from Northern California, and at one point in our camper van, and at one point, Apple Maps takes me on an interesting little diversion through the high desert, Mojave. And let me tell you,
where are we?
If you've seen any of, even if you've, just like me, who have just seen the screenshots from the Fallout 1 and 2 and all, and I've also done a lot of driving up to Vegas and all, because my wife used to race motorcycles there outside of Edwards. And you're driving through the high desert, and it already feels like a post-apocalyptic wasteland in many parts of the high desert, the high Mojave. And it feels like the games. You could really see where that's the vibe they're going for. That's where it was set. I'm not even talking about, check out some pictures of Slab City and the Salton Sea sometime. And you really get that. But yeah, that the whole, how little for California is one of the highest population states. You get down to the high desert and you don't see anything. You don't see anybody except broken down buses and meth sheds.
Yeah, you're in the middle of fucking. You're in the middle of the West,
you're looking to see where you kept your personal protection device, because it's sort of scary out there. That's the feeling that you get.
I might be a simple boy from the north, but I've spent a lot of time in, my one of my closest friends moved to California. We used to go camping in Joshua Tree all the time. We would go there and we'd do hallucinogenic drugs and wander around the desert at midnight, or like at 3 a.m. and listen to the coyotes and stuff. Like, I love I love California. I love the high desert. I love the Southwest as well. Like, and that whole, like, I feel like all those things are tied together, right? Because then you have the history of like White Sands Missile Base, where they developed the atomic bomb, where Oppenheimer was, where they first did all the first tests. It's like all that atomic age stuff is all tied into that identity, which is, to me, is like the West Coast and the Southwest together, right? And when you take it out of there, it just feels foreign and weird to me. That is not to say that Fallout 3 and 4 are bad games. I love them. I'm playing through 4 again. I've played it like a bazillion times. But, like, it's just, it's a different flavor, and it doesn't quite feel right. If you want a full
Fallout
flavor, which is why the show is great, because it's set on the West Coast.
One of an early, I believe it was a Loris Obscurus, where Ryan tells a story. He tells his clown story.
Oh, yeah. I went to 29 Palms and some weird shit happened.
All right.
And I just imagine when I see like pictures of Fallout and the ghoul and the open desert and all, I always flash back to Ryan telling the story about the clown in the deserted house. Anyway, go back. I don't know what episode it was, but it's a good one.
It's in there.
So well, Ryan asked me at the beginning of this, Drew, how much on Fallout do you think you have? And I said, I could talk for 25 minutes uninterrupted. And we managed to fill almost 2 hours. So, hey, I'm glad we stuck to one topic. Good job, everybody.
We almost stuck to one topic. We were pretty
more or less.
Well, guys, that's kind of I don't even know I said kind of. That's the Patreon exclusive experience. We usually pick a topic that we usually pick like 3 topics that we talk about. A lot of times we'll toss in what our hobby progress is, or we will talk about the most recent controversy that is happening with WarhammerCommunity.com, because man, do they love to throw us doozies. We've got some topics out there over our thoughts on female custodes.
Price is going up.
Price is going up. Yeah, we've talked about if you want any of that kind of extra if you want anything that's kind of more topical to what's actually happening, we talk about that in our Patreon exclusive topics. And then also we do kind of interesting and fun things like this. This is actually the topic that we had planned for last week, and then we ended up moving it to this week and deciding to give you guys all a taste of the insanity that is our Patreon exclusive episodes. We do have some more Patreon exclusive stuff that we're working on right now to bring you guys, including some hobby tips, some painting tips and stuff like that. So if you're not part of our Patreon yet and you're wondering how to get a little bit of a deeper glimpse into what we're doing, you want this behind the scenes content, or you want to ask us some questions about what we do, hit us up there. That's another thing that we talk about a lot in our Patreon episodes is how we paint stuff. Drew and Chalk definitely have some experience. Actually, all of you guys, everybody except me.
Here's a hot preview of an exclusive hobby tip.
Yes, and I have used that more than once.
Yes.
It is wonderful, wonderful stuff.
Okay, so just for edification, because most people are only hearing this audio, can you explain what you just showed?
I just held up a bottle of Pledge floor gloss floor wax, and it is essentially what it really is it's an acrylic clear sealant, but what it does is it really it's a surfactant. It really reduces the surface tension of things. So if you mix it with an ink or a wash, it will really sink down into the recesses.
This is so I've got a reason for it too.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So if you take if you have some Nuln Oil and you're like, when I put the Nuln Oil on, it makes the surface a little too dark. Mix it with a little bit of this Pledge floor wash. Actually is Pledge Revive is what it's called. It used to be called Future Floor Wash. That was the brand, and then Pledge bought it years ago. Original floor gloss. And what it does is like I said, when you mix it with an ink, it will sink right down into the recesses. So if you ever really need to do if you wanted to do black lining on something, it's a really great thing for that. I absolutely love the stuff. So.
Oh, like on your Gundams.
Like on your Gundams, but your Taus or whatever, or if you really want to do some contrasting lines. I did a bunch of guys, my old Necromunda gang, which was the Goliaths from when they did Necromunda 2nd edition. I made them all look like the Misfits, and I'll give them the black eyeliner, and I did that with
nice.
You're just gonna go dupe with you do white eyes and a little bit of the Future Floor Wash, and it's just a perfect liner on the eyes.
With it, there are two things. One, this started from old school wargaming where people would use it to get the canopies. I mean, modeling. For getting the canopies on the fighters and all really clear. They would use Future Floor Gloss, which is now Pledge. There are actually a couple of different Pledge types. They don't all work the same. But it's basically liquid.
This is what I know of. This is the same as Future, and it is called Pledge, at least in Canada. Pledge Revive Floor Gloss Original.
That's the difference.
That's the difference.
We have a different name in the U.S., and I couldn't find my bottle of it.
Okay.
Yeah, because I've got the French on mine, so that's how you know it's real. It's real connect.
What I use it for sometimes is it also runs really well through an airbrush. So what I do is I use it as a gloss sealant. You do your painting, you hit it with the Pledge, let it dry, and then you go through, and then I put my washes on top of that or other things, and it does the same thing. Any gloss varnish will do the same thing. It will help the wash,
which is essentially what this is.
It's just you can get huge bottles of it for $3.
Yeah, I bought this 5 years ago, and this is how much I've used. You don't need a lot, and it lasts.
If you're doing
forever.
An army or something, you just load it in your airbrush, and you just go to town. Then you go back through and hit them with a wash or a dip, and it will pull away from the high surfaces much better. and give you, especially with a dip,
because it reduces that surface tension. It makes it
and then
shiny,
you have to
right?
go back through
Like
after that, and you just hit it
effect.
with your matte sealant. So you go back, and then you get your matte varnish, go over it, and then it seals it in. So that's a really good way, and gets rid of the shininess.
These are all pro moves. This is all like what professional painters do, by the way.
Yeah, if you guys want all of the insights into how these guys paint things that look good versus me slopping paint on for 500 layers, check all that stuff out.
There's no wrong way to paint. No wrong way to paint.
We're also working on some role-playing supplements and some other help as far as...
There is a wrong way to paint. If you just snip the sprue and then take your little pot of Everland Sunset and then dip the sprue directly into the paint
I'm painting wrong.
That's not correct. You have to do like 2 thin coats.
So I've been doing like a lot of orcs. So Horde army, right? A lot.
Yeah.
And I've just been prepping them. And I finally decided, by the way, and I'll go through it. My boys are all going purple. I've decided it's going to be purple and pink. I've done a couple of tests. Those are going to be my colors.
Awesome.
And yes, I have stolen the purple from Midwinter Minis, except he uses purple and orange. I do want to say I did not come up with this. But the whole thing, when you're doing all of these, and then you get through and you're like, oh, crap. You see your little line where you clipped it off and you've got that scar that you didn't come down, or even that little bit that's sticking up there still. And I'm like, it's a Horde army.
Yeah, but if you hold it like that, if you hold it at arm's length, like if you're going like this to your minis, you're doing it wrong.
It is.
And actually, this is a big tip, and
you're good.
This is also for something. I come from the world of epic gaming, and I'll do some epic stuff. We'll put up there for Legions Imperialis. You are not doing pro level. You are not. I mean, I have, but you're not doing base, wash, highlight, second highlight on something that's 8 millimeters tall.
No.
You're like, wait, that rivet that was there on the model is now gone.
I have done stuff like that. But remember, a lot of this, and unless you're doing a couple of models, and I fall into this at times, unless you're doing just 1 or 2, or you're doing your hero model, or you're doing it for the hobby, if you're doing it to play, and especially if you're doing Horde armies, give yourself some slack.
Yeah, 100%. I'm more teasing myself. I've got some terrain tips and some hobby painting tips that I'll share as well. We're all going to kind of share our knowledge from our collective years of wargaming. But anyway, if you guys have any questions about the show or wanting to get into direct contact with any of us, you can do that through an email at underthehiveofmadness@gmail.com. As Chalk mentioned earlier this episode, and as we mentioned last episode, if you want to get one of us specifically, just go ahead and put it up in the subject. Attention Chalk, attention Emmy, attention Drew, attention Ryan, doesn't matter. And we'll make sure that it gets to the right person. If you just have a question about the show in general, go ahead and send it there. If you have a spooky story that you want us to share on Loris Obscurus, that's another way to get us. And there's other ways to find us.
Yes. You can find us over on Discord and join the conversation about existing lore, world building, gaming in general, and much more. You can also find the show on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Underthehiveofmadness.com. Check out our link tree to find all sorts of links to keep up with everyone in the cast hobby progress and internet meanderings. Links and spelling will be in the show notes.
Help the podcast grow by liking and reviewing us wherever you get your podcast fix. Our home is Spotify, but you can find us on Audible, Apple Podcast, CastBox, iHeartRadio, Radio Public, and more. And I really want to ask, if you do listen to us on Apple, please do give us a rating and give us a quick review. I know that I gave one back when I started listening to this show, like way back. I was going to give another one, but I realized I already had a nice long review on there. But it really helps helps how we appear in the searches and all for like Warhammer and lore and all that. If you want to support us directly, you can do that through Patreon at patreon.com/underthehiveofmadness. And then you'll be able to see these special episodes like where we did now, or maybe an hour of us rambling about some completely off topic, but interesting. Everything we always say is always interesting and mostly gaming related. But yeah, you can see our Patreon only content. And you could join awesome people like Rupert, Andrew Q, and Lewis for access to extra content and a chance to snag some cool merch in our monthly giveaway. However, we cannot tell you that we will be giving merch in a monthly giveaway. It's just, that just sort of happens. So disclaimer there.
And if you guys are interested to know what we're giving away upcoming, we'll be doing our raffle, our next Patreon segment. We will post some pictures up in the Discord so you can see. Not. Yeah, it's just merchandise. It's special stuff. It's like these hats. We don't do big orders of them.
We do stickers sometimes. Those are fun. Yeah. Everybody loves stickers.
The dry pallets.
The dry
pallets are sick. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We've got a custom painted miniature that we're gonna be sending to a lucky patron.
Our Naruto giveaway just for Emmy.
All right, guys.
Sugoi.
Oh, and into the radio outro. What did you want to do for Mama? You have like a jingle you wanted to do for Mama Kaz's, right?
I'm workshopping it.
Are you gonna toss it when I'm done with it? Here, I'm gonna put dash Emmy. Let's see what you come up with. All right.
You can just put a toilet flushing sound for me if you want.
So, oh my God, we used to rate things by toilets. Mama Kaz's Noodle House has 5 toilets from the from UHMR Camera Radio. It's rated 5 toilets. Come on down and try the new Liz Gizzard Bowl special. Let's do sump shrimp bolter. Sump shrimp bolter fried.
This person's up.
Plasma fired ramen.
What plasma? Yeah. Made to burn. Okay, cool. All right. All of that will actually get edited out.
On this particular song.
Okay.
Mama Kaz's Noodle House voted Arconia's Mama Kaz's Noodle House voted Arconia. God damn it. It's my own made up word. Every time.
Say it however you want.
I say Arconia all the time. I don't know why I can't say Arconia's. Mama Kaz's Noodle. God damn it.
Tuscaloosa.
It's today. Mama Kaz's Noodle House voted Arconia's best ramen shop by Intergalactic Truckers 6 seasons running. Come on down and try the new Sump Shrimp Plasma Fried Ramen. It's made to burn.
Okay, I'll do my jingle now. You can get your noodles from the house of Mama Kaz. Bowl so hot and spicy, you'll shit your entire ass.
Love it.
Hey, can we do another take?
Yes.
Because I think you're laughing too hard.
Okay.
I wrote it.
You can get your noodles from the house of Mama Kaz. Bowl so hot and spicy, you'll shit your entire ass. Whichever take is better. You can decide in post.
Always one step ahead of the Administratum. We are the signal that can't be stopped. 665.66 UHMR Chemrat Radio, reminding all of you Chemrats, hive mice, and sump ghoulies to keep those dials fixed. Right here, same ratty frequency for a dose of the same ratty-ass attitude.
Ding dong bell, the four-armed emperor is in the well. Who put them in? Little Johnny Slim. Who took them out? Little Tommy Stout. What a rotten boy was he to let that dreadful monster free. Serves him right for getting bit, for he was just a stupid git.
And always remember to read a book.
They're gene stealers, right? That's what we're talking about?
Yeah, four-armed emperors are gene stealers that infested a rat population, and they're no longer connected to the hive mind.
Okay.
Well, we should do a four-armed emperor catch-up
personal
episode.
pet peeve, they should never have linked gene stealers to Tyranids. They should have kept them
That was a
separate.
mistake.
And that's a throwback to when gene stealers weren't part of the Tyranids.
Yeah, but Zotes were, baby.
Yep.
Fucking Zotes.
All right, guys. Have a great night. Thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed this Patreon special brought directly from us to you.
Stay spicy. Eat them avocassos. Yeah.